So as we get into your book, Thou Shalt Prosper,
Yeah.
the fifth commandment that you have in that book says that we need to balance short and long-term business goals. And, we tend to focus on the short-term emergencies. It's just very reactive, all the little things, all the little fires in our day, instead of the long-term goals. How do we balance those well as leaders?
So I think it's really important to stay focused on the essentials. And what I mean by that is that, I have a phrase I use in my own podcast regularly, and even in live programming when I teach a symposium or I do an event, and that is that the more that things change, the more we need to depend upon those things that never change. And it's really important. I remember back in 2000, everybody, the internet was brand new, everybody was jumping in, and the big talk then was eyeballs. Eyeballs. What are eyeballs? How many times people see your page? And vast sums of money were raised. I remember an early attempt at groceries online. They raised a lot of money based on eyeballs. And at the time, I remember doing a program on exactly this idea. Wait a second. The more that things change, the more we need to depend on those things that never change. What never changes is that you are providing a valuable service when you get a profit. You do not know from eyeballs. So stop with the silly eyeballs and focus on revenue and expenses. And when we check the difference between revenue and expenses, we either end up with a positive number or a negative number. Positive is better. Now, this is unchanging, but it was very hard to get an audience in 2000 and 2001, 2002, until the whole thing blew up, because everybody was excited about this new technology. Look, the new technology, there's always been new technology. Admittedly, this is an exciting one. But in 1844, when the telegraph first happened, when a message was delivered from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore, Maryland on a copper wire, this is the first time in human history that a message could be communicated over a vast distance without using a man on a horse.
Wow.
This was stupendous. This was as big as the internet, bigger than the internet it was to us, was the telegraph to them. There have always been technological developments, but you don't lose sight of the things that never change. And one of the things that never changes is if you're not making a profit, you are not in business. So that's very straight. Eyeballs? I don't want to know about eyeballs. Carrots? I don't want to know about carrots. Just talk to me about revenue and expenses, because those are things that never change. Mm. And that, I think, is fundamental to the task of any leader. And who is the most important person that I have to lead?
Yourself.
Myself, of course. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's the hardest one.
Yeah.
Because, as everyone knows, the one person who causes you more trouble in your life, the one person who obstructs your progress, the person who's created more headaches for you than anybody else, the real villain of the story is the guy whose name is on your driver's license.
The guy in the mirror.
Yeah, that's right.
That's powerful. So let's talk about the minutia, if you will, of the day-to-day. It can be hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel some days when you're at work. How can leaders help their teams see this connection between the daily tasks, all the little things happening day-to-day, and that long-term vision that we're all headed towards?
That, of course, is primarily the job of a leader. One of the problems that happens is that leaders very often establish themselves as bottlenecks, right? And right now, listening to us, there is any number of people who are doing this in their businesses. They make sure that every decision has to come through them.
Is it a lack of trust? Is that what's happening?
That's a good question.
Or is it an ego thing, maybe?
I don't know that it's an ego thing, but I'm not 100% sure of what causes it. But I know it's real. I know it's out there. I know when I'm asked to come into businesses to advise, one of the first things I'm looking for is everything ends up on the leader's desk. And, there are people who are sitting around. What are you doing? I'm just waiting to get an authorization from the boss. What are you doing? I'm just waiting to see my advertising campaign needs to be approved by the... And the guy, it's my business. Of course I have to make these decisions. Well, what that means is that you are yourself embroiled in the minutiae. You're doing other people's work, and you're not doing what you should be doing, which is exactly the point you just raised, which is you should be providing the roadmap. And one of the most important things on a roadmap is the destination. We're not going on a road trip if we don't know where we're going. And that's crucial. And what's more, navigation. I sailed my family on our sailboat to Hawaii. And it was a 22-day journey from the West Coast to Hawaii. No signposts on the way, no gas stations to stop in and get directions. Every day at midday, I would take a sun sight with a sextant and put a mark on the paper chart designating where we are. And then I would draw a line from there to Hawaii, to Honolulu, and that would tell me how to steer. Why didn't I just do that once in Los Angeles at the beginning of the voyage and then just steer that route? You got to keep checking it every day, because you don't necessarily end up each day where you thought you would 24 hours earlier. And so you constantly have to re-navigate, but you can only do that if your destination is absolutely clear.